Okay, Chapter 2, Lesson 5, Solving Absolute Value Equalities. So the first thing we have to talk about is what is absolute value and what does it do? So absolute value is the distance from any number to 0. So because it's a distance, we always do distance as a positive number. So whenever you have like an absolute value sign, if you put a positive number in there, it stays as a positive number. And if you put a negative number in there, it comes out as a positive. So absolute value can only be equal to a positive number. To find the absolute value function in your calculator, you push the math key, which is down below the green alpha key, and then hit the right arrow in the circle of arrows there. And then the first thing that should pop up is ABS, which is absolute value. If you hit enter, that brings it down to your home screen. On the first part of the homework here, they're going to give us these equations and they're going to have us, our expressions, and they're going to give us numbers to substitute in, and they want us just to work with our calculator and putting them in. So the first one here, we're going to start with 16 minus, and then we're going to push the math key over to the number key, and the first thing, ABS. And then instead of, we're going to have 2 times, instead of Z, we're going to put a -4. So 2 times -4 plus 1. Enter. You should get 9. On this one down here, we have absolute value. So we start with the math key over to number and the first thing. We'll do -3 times 3 plus, instead of Z, I'm going to put -4. And close minus, instead of X, I'm going to put -1. I'm just going to type it in as minus -1. Now, if you have the TI 84 plus or higher, and your home screen has for the absolute value, it has 2, the absolute value bars. Before you put in this minus -1, you need to make sure that you arrow out so that minus -1 is on the outside. If you have anything under the TI 84 plus, yours is a ABS with a parenthesis, so you need to close parenthesis before you put the minus -1. And you should get 14. This one's going to have a double absolute value here. So we're going to start with 3. Oops. Come on. There. You're going to start with 3 and then math over to the number and enter. And then you're going to do Z, which is -4, minus X, which is -1. And then either arrow out or close parenthesis. Plus, go back to the math key, over to number, start a new absolute value of 2 minus 3, arrow out or close. And you should get 10. So that's going to be the first part of your homework, is substituting and evaluating. On the second part, we're not going to be given numbers to substitute. We're actually going to solve the absolute value equalities. So since the absolute value makes everything inside of the symbols positive, we already answered this on the first slide, but how many integers can be substituted in for the X if I want it to come out as positive 9? And so we already answered, is we can put in absolute value of 9 and it'll come out 9, or we could put in -9 and that will come out 9. So absolute value equations, for the most part, should have 2 answers. We're going to have a couple where they might have no solution, and we'll see when we get to that. So how are we going to go about solving it? What we're going to do is we're going to set up 2 separate equalities, but on the second one, we're going to set it equal to the negative number, and then we're going to solve them. So on number 5 here, if I would cover this up, I would ask you, what 2 numbers could you put into that absolute value and get out 1? And you would tell me that you could put in a positive 1 and you could put in a negative 1. And once you absolute value it, it will become positive. So then what we do is we just take the left side of the equation, which is 2x minus 9, and put that for both of these, and then solve like normal. So on this left one, I would add 9 first to each side to get 10, divide by 2 to get 5. Over here, I would add 9 to get 8, divide by 2, which is 4. Then it wants us to graph them on the number line. So if you just do your own number line and just do 4 and 5, like that, or if they give you one, you could just put the dots on 4 and 5. On the second one, the two things that I could put into here to get out 9 would be 9 and negative 9. So I'm going to set up 3x plus 6 could be 9, or 3x plus 6 could be negative 9. Subtract the 6 to both sides would give me 3. Divide by 3 would give me 1. Subtract the 6 over here would give me negative 15. Divide by 3 would give me negative 5. On number 6 here, either 3 minus 2x would be 7, or 3 minus 2x would be negative 7. Subtract 3 on this one. So negative 2x equals 4, and then x is negative 2. Subtract 3 again over here, which would give me negative 10. Divide by negative 2, which would give me positive 5. All right, the next set of a homework they're going to have us do is they're going to have us write the absolute value equation from looking at a number line. So in order to do that, we need two things. We need the midpoint, which is the halfway point, and the distance from the midpoint to the end point. Then our equation is going to be always x minus the midpoint in absolute value signs is going to equal the distance from that midpoint to an endpoint. So we'll go ahead and draw number 9 here. You've got a dot on 1 and a dot on 11. The first thing we have to find is the midpoint, and the midpoint is the halfway point. So what number is halfway between 1 and 11? And the answer is 6. So I start with absolute value of x minus 6. And then we set that equal to how far it is from the midpoint to the end point. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From 6 to 11 is 5 away. It's also 5 on this side if you count 4, 5. And that's the equation. So on number 10, I have negative 6 and negative 2, and my midpoint then would be negative 4. So I start with absolute value of x minus negative 4, close, equals, and the distance on each side is 2. Now in your book, what they're going to do is simplify that x minus negative 4 to x plus 4. On the second one, the halfway distance here between negative 7 and 1 is negative 3. So I have x minus negative 3 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, the book is going to simplify that minus a negative into a plus. And so I have the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 4. On the word problems, we're going to be writing the absolute value equations also. So we need to read through them and try to find the midpoint and find the distance. Tasha uses the elliptical cross trainer at the gym. Her general goal is to burn 280 calories per workout, but she varies by as much as 25 calories from this amount on any given day. Write and solve an absolute value equation to find the minimum and maximum number of calories Tasha burns on the cross trainer. So obviously on this one, we start with x minus in absolute values equals. And I want to know the midpoint. And the midpoint is the halfway point, or also sometimes is called the average. So I asked myself, how much does she averagely burn a day? And the answer is 280. And then varies by as much as 25 calories from this amount. So the distance away would be 25. This one wants us to solve. So either x minus 280 is going to equal 25, or x minus 280 is going to equal negative 25. Add 280 to both sides on the left, and I get 280 plus 25 is 305. And negative 25 plus 280 is 255. A thermometer is guaranteed to give a temperature no more than 1.2 from the actual temperature. The thermometer is currently reading 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So that would be my average, and it varies by no more than 1.2. So I set up x minus 28 equals 1.2, or x minus 28 equals negative 1.2. 1.2 plus 28 is 29.2. Negative 1.2 plus 28 is 26.8.